I just wanted to do a podcast with another guy. The link will be in the description down below. But let's get the call. There we go. Okay, here's a go. Let's go on. Good afternoon.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Afternoon, mate. How are you?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
Very good, mate. Very good. Brilliant. Not real sure. Did you have a chance to check out the podcast or anything like that? Or
I've had a quick glance, but I've not actually watched the full episodes yet.
no, that's fine, mate. Just so you understand exactly sort of the source, if you get what I'm saying.
Yep, of
So
course.
yeah, brilliant. But yeah, Fantasy Star Online. Yeah, that's definitely one that I did not expect at all. So I'm actually quite interested. I'm really interested to hear about it. So that's really good. So basically, really simple stuff. I've looked on your YouTube, by the way, and I saw you've got a playlist of Fantasy Star Online, like about 5 videos or so.
Yep.
And I know it's like, but I like that because that's what I'll do is I'm going to loop that in the background so they're
Okay.
playing over and over. So when we're talking about it, it's just something for people to look at essentially because it's like a video format on Spotify and
Okay.
YouTube and all that stuff. Also, when the video does go out, I'll send you a link and I have like a collaboration link. I don't know if you've done that on YouTube before.
Not yet, but I'm aware of it.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll send you that, and then we literally just have both our profiles linked together. So that's like a little bit of stuff there. Other than that, the only other thing is literally at the start, I just get you to say hi. My name is Gunblade Lad. This is the games that made us Fantasy Star Online, and that's it. And then we crack on.
Okay, no problem.
Beautiful. Right. What I'll do is I'll share screen, and we can get started. Okay. There we go.
Hey, that character looks familiar.
Yeah, yeah. I just thought it'd be nice to have your stuff playing in the background. I thought it'd be
Yep.
quite a nice touch. So what I'll do is I'll start recording. When I do, if you just say that open or like, hi, my name is Gunblade Lad. This is the games that made us Fantasy Star Online, and then I'll leave it a couple of seconds. Then I'll do my intro, and then we just get started.
Okay, no problem.
Perfect. And I'm recording now.
Hello, this is Scumbleed Lads. These are the video games that made us Fantasy Star Online. And welcome,
Perfect, love.
and welcome to the show.
Perfect. Perfect. No, perfect. You've done it perfectly. Right, lovely stuff. Right, I'm gonna start playing the video, then I'll do my intro, and then we'll get going.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much again for joining me to another episode of the Games That Made Us. I am joined here by Gunblade Lad, talking about Fantasy Star Online. Gunblade Lad, how are you doing?
I'm doing great just now. How about yourself?
I'm fantastic. Thanks so much for asking. I appreciate it. When I spoke to you initially to do this episode, and usually when I ask people what sort of game they want to talk about, I kind of have a list in my mind of what I expect. And now, obviously, I never expect anything in particular, but I generally have a kind of an idea. But when you said Fantasy Star Online, I was like, wow, that is a game, and I'll totally be honest here, that I've never even picked up, I've never even played, but I have seen it. I've seen it on promotionals, I've seen it in adverts, I've seen when it's been revealed. So explain to me. How did you discover Fantasy Star Online? How did you get into this game?
My first experience of seeing it would be on an old UK video games TV show. I can't remember the name of it, but it was the one that was presented by the three women, and they showcased the game there. That was before the Dreamcast launch. Then a few years later, I got introduced to it by a couple of friends who were playing it on the GameCube. A couple of months later, I bought myself a GameCube and a copy of the game, and I've been playing ever since.
Oh wow, okay. So generally, you've seen it on TV. Because obviously, I was born in the 80s. So when I grew up, we had it was kind of the end of the era of sort of like I think it was Games Master. I think it was called.
Yep.
He was like the guy in the blue, and he was kind of saying, "Oh, I can't get past this level," and the kids would ask him. So that was kind of my TV exposure to gaming. But then when the PlayStation dropped, I was sort of I was the end of the era on the SNES. So when the PlayStation dropped, the magazines were my biggest source of information. So other than the TV show where you saw them talking about it, and then your friend had it on GameCube, how did how did you get any more information about this game? Like, so you knew what it was, what you was going to expect, because it seems quite a unique game.
For myself, as I said, my friends introduced me to it. I initially set up a character in their memory cards. Then so I knew what to expect through the normal difficulty, basically easy modes. And once I got my own copy of the game, I started playing through it quite rapidly. And before long, my friends classed me as the expert on it.
So how many hours would you say that you put into Fantasy Star Online when you first started playing?
Um, as of now, I would say thousands of hours by now, across all character classes and different section IDs.
Wow, that's incredible. It's incredible. Correct me if I'm wrong. So you saw it on your friend's GameCube, but did this game start on the GameCube, or was it on? I saw it was on the Dreamcast as
Yep,
well.
Dreamcast is where it first started out, and the Dreamcast actually had two versions. V1 was the original, and that was one that got made on the TV sets back in the day. Then there was a V2 release, which added the ultimate difficulty and raised the level cap to 200.
Wow.
Then about a year or two after that, I think, it came out in the GameCube with 4 extra levels and new enemies, and that was episode 1 and 2. And that's how I got started playing the game.
Wow, that's incredible. So when I hear the title Fantasy Star Online, the key word I'm hearing is online. So talk to me about that. Was this game actually online at the time?
Yes, it was. With a Dreamcast, there was both a modem and a broadband adapter. The broadband adapter is extremely rare. On GameCube, they're still quite hard to get hold of. And even now, the games are online because there's fan servers up and running. So anyone that has a copy of the game, a GameCube with a network adapter, or even a Wii with Homebrew, can get on and play online right now.
That's incredible. So, what was the community like when it was online? I mean, how did you connect with other people, and how was that all done?
Uh, Unfortunately, I never actually played it online initially. I was purely an offline player. But when I later introduced the game to another friend, he was able to get himself a GameCube broadband adapter, and he also got me a broadband adapter and some server tools, so we were able to play in a LAN setup using my old Windows 98 PC.
Wow, wow.
So my initial online experience was basically in a LAN setup with just me and my friends. And eventually, after the official servers closed, I got involved with a SAC serve, SEHT hack, also known colloquially, excuse the language, as shit serve.
It's incredible hearing that, because it's like a world within a world, because you see this game, and you see it has online in the title, and you think, oh, online. And these days you wouldn't really think anything of that. You'd think, oh, online, it's an online game. But when you're talking about those years when this game came out, online wasn't at all easily accessible. It was like you say, you had to get a network adapter.
Yep.
You had to go all dial-up modems, things like that. So
Yep.
I mean, it must have been an incredible how do I put it, financial sort of kind of investment to really get online with this game, to experience its, I suppose, I mean, offline to online. Explain that. Was there much of a difference?
Offline modes, the game gave you you basically play through the game in 3 modes to unlock areas, and as you unlock areas, you also get quests which unlock certain stuff, and it also provides a story narrative. And the online mode has different quests. You can team up with people online, and so on naturally. And it's just online, is just a complete different ball game. On the GameCube, there is a split screen offline, but because the memory limitations on the GameCube, it is quite limited. Basically, all the players had to be clustered together to go up or down from the main sort of player hub and so on. So there are some limitations as a GameCube memory on offline modes.
Wow. So there was definitely a benefit to getting online.
Yep,
There was in terms of sort of the game itself. Looking at it, it looks actually absolutely beautiful. I love the visuals. They're very powerful. It's very striking,
yep,
and there's a lot going on the screen. And obviously I've not played the game as I said, but looking at it, I'm seeing HP values. I'm seeing some sort of mana bar or maybe some energy. I'm not exactly
yep,
sure what that is. I'm seeing levels. I'm seeing. The visuals I'm seeing right now are like they're striking me as like wow, this is something I could
yep.
really get into. So explain to me a bit about what Fantasy Star Online is as a game itself.
Um, it's basically a science fiction online MMORPG. Um, the basic storyline of the game is the planets that people are on has started dying. So the game follows a bunch of people on the sort of immigration ships, colony ships to exploring new planets.
Yeah.
And the game starts just as a second colony ship has arrived at the planet it's going to colonize. But disaster basically wipes out all the life of the people on the planets already. So the entire game plot is you as a hunter on the planets trying to find out what's happened to everyone.
Wow, wow. It sounds quite expansive when you talk about it like that. We're talking
Mm-hmm.
planets. Obviously, it's got sci-fi elements. We're talking ships,
Yep.
space exploration. I'm assuming. So, with all of that, how was that dealt with in obviously on the Dreamcast and on the GameCube? How was you able to navigate those worlds? Was it quite difficult?
Uh, the game itself has a science fiction plot line, but you don't actually navigate different worlds. There's just one planet that you go onto, and it's divided into 4 areas on episode 1, and another 4 different areas in episode 2. So essentially just exploring different areas of the same planets.
Right, right. So you're not straying too far from sort of like kind
No.
of the hub, if you like. You're
Yep.
just kind of navigating out to sort of certain like a wheel. You're sort of navigating the spokes of a planet in
Yep.
essence. Or
The hub
okay,
the hub is sort of like the spaceship you're on, and you sort of beam up and down to the planets in different areas.
right, okay.
So think Star Trek with the Enterprise going up and down in the transport room to different parts of the planets.
Yeah, it's really. I'm seeing some combat here. So explain to me a little bit how the combat was treated. How was that treated? How did you navigate combat? Was it a turn-based system? Was it just go for it? How was it done?
It's completely real-time combat. What you're seeing there is myself using a ranger character, which is the long range class, and a force user who's basically sort of magic class. Uh, Game classes are split into 3 different groups: hunters, which basically close range melee fighters, specializing in swords and so on. Then you get rangers who mostly use guns and so on. Then you get forces who are basically the wizards, hang back and do support magic.
Wow, wow. Was you a fan of sci-fi and fantasy sort of type style movies, TV shows, games, things like that?
Yep, back in my younger days, I probably would have been classed as a bit of a Trekkie.
Ah, excellent, excellent. So this game automatically like straight away appealed to you.
Yep.
Seeing it with its magic and obviously the sci-fi elements and things like that. So
Yep.
when you started playing it, was you making a lot of comparisons? Was you like, oh wow, this kind of reminds me of this, that, and the other?
I was indeed. By that point, I'd already played the hell out of Final Fantasy 7 and 8, which is how I came up with my username.
Oh yeah, brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. That's brilliant. So when we're talking about this sort of game, what about the main characters in the game? Did you have to create your own character? Or was there already a character built for you?
When you start the game initially, you have to create a new character from scratch. There's 12 different characters on the GameCube version, and you basically pick one of those, and you customize the character to your liking. Pick the name, and when you pick your name, that gives you what's called a section ID, and that section ID determines what sort of drop chart you get. So, for example, the video I was playing, which is actually my 20-year hunt, the Twin Chakram drop, that is an Oran exclusive item. So no other section ID gets that item.
Right, that's really interesting because I was actually going to ask that. I was going to say, obviously, being an online game, being offline, I'm assuming that you'd lost access to a lot of unique items that we're seeing here, like the Twin Chakram. So, did you feel that, as you were playing the game like offline, and eventually when you got online, it opened up a whole new world for you, essentially?
Did kind of, but I had quite a few memory cards, so I was able to create characters in all the different section IDs by
Oh,
carefully picking and choosing names. But the character you're seeing on screen just now, is my longest running character. That's I'm most used to playing.
Right. Okay. I see. So when you talk about section IDs and things like that, and unique things like that, how did you discover all that was available in the game? Was you learning that as you played, or was people telling you this stuff?
Learning as I played, you don't really notice much difference in the drop charts until you reach hard modes or very hard. And by that point, you're realizing, okay, these things are dropping for this person I'm playing with, but they're not dropping for me when I play. But there's loads of online guides telling you the differences between the section IDs.
Right. I see. I see. So, but I mean, obviously, there was obviously internet at the time. There was access
Yep,
to these things. Did you find yourself scouring a lot of community forums to find all this information out?
I did, yes.
Yeah. How much? I mean, how did you make a lot of friends through that, and a lot of people who were playing the game at the same time? Did you sort of open up your eyes to like, wow, there's actually a big scene for this game? I didn't realize how big it was.
I did, yes. I was mostly focused on the GameCube scene, and I picked up the knowledge quick enough that a lot of people learned to trust my instincts and stuff and look to me for advice, just because I picked things up and spread on good information rather than bad.
Yeah, yeah. So you were sort of like an information hub essentially, became quite a key community member and
Yep.
helped a lot of other new players getting into the game.
Aye. Some people have called me a sort of archival expert.
Oh, that's really good. So do you still do that today? Do you still help players who navigate this game when they're trying to get into it now?
Indeed, they do. In fact, the video that's on just now, made just a couple of months ago to help my regular teammates who always have trouble with that specific enemy. So I made that video to guide them on how to handle that enemy specifically.
Right. Okay, that's really interesting. So talking about enemies is why we're on the subject. So what was the enemies like in this? What was their types? How did you distinguish an enemy that was low level to high level? Was there a lot of model types in the game?
There's a lot of model types, but each enemy tends to appear in specific areas. For example, the one on screen just now, the gunners, only appear in ruins. But all the levels have three types of a sort of generic bipedal mob, which is the basic one that comes at you head on and tries to hit you physically. Then you get other enemies that's very long range attacks and so on, and it all depends on the level which ones you get.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Talk to me through the attacks and the abilities I'm seeing here. I'm seeing a lot of abilities and a lot of menus going on and off. So how did that work? What was the sort of the ability range in the game?
Uh, there's each character. Each character mostly initially has three attacks: a normal attack, hard attack, and special attack. The other three physical ones. Every character has them, but the weapon class you're using determines what attacks he gets. So, for example, that shot just there, you see me freezing enemies with a special attack. That is determined by the gun I'm using.
Right.
The green icon in the bottom left is a sort of heal spell. And the game's calling them techniques, but in RPG terms, they're spells or magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how I grew up on it. Yeah.
Yep. You can get buffs which increase your attack and defense. You can get debuffs for enemies to reduce their attack and defense. You've got three elemental spells: fire, ice, and magic. Each has got 3 levels. The force classes have got access to a light element magic and a dark element magic, which can do an instant kill.
Wow. So it seems like it's got quite an in-depth system and quite a vast system of abilities and uses. Did you find that any class or any sort of spec had sort of overlapping abilities, or was it all quite unique?
Most of the classes do have some overlap specifically, but the android characters, such as the one that's just popped on, that class do not get any magic or techniques. What they get instead is traps, which you can basically place on a level, and you can either damage, freeze, or confuse enemies.
Right, right. So what was your sort of favorite class? What was your go-to class?
My go-to class was pretty much what's called the Rama, basically a human male ranger. So you get access to low-level magics, and you get access to guns and a selection of weapons.
Right, that's really interesting. So, so obviously, I talked a little bit about I saw like HP values and I saw sort of magic values, if you like, or MP or whatever. So, talk to me how did numbers affect this game? How was statuses and attack, percentages and miss percentages? How was that all calculated when you leveled up? Was that how did you how was that all distributed?
Each character levels up slightly differently when as you level up, um, but you also get materials which you can use to boost stats permanently. Um, but every single character has a maximum level for the numbers to go to. So rangers, well, humans, or human characters are sort of mid tier. They're basically sort of all rounders, so to speak. Uh, Androids will tend to have higher attack and higher HP, but they have absolutely no magic stats whatsoever. And human characters, of which there's basically two, have low health, low attack, but they got massive magic stats.
Right. Did you feel there was a certain class that really overarched every other class? That there was a class in the game that you could pick it and get guaranteed to be absolutely like overpowered or anything like that?
For most people, that would probably be the Hugh cast, which is a hunter android, well, the male hunter android. Uh, they are quite limited initially because you have to rely on items to heal and the traps. But as you get into the late game, they become pretty much killing machines. You swing your swords at the enemy and they're gonna die, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Did you find that the game, obviously, being that it was essentially an online party game, did you find that there was a lot of enemies on screen at once, even for the technology at the time? We're talking GameCube, Dreamcast. Did you find that the console handled it quite well with all the enemies?
I did, yes. There's only been a few cases where I've managed to get the enemy count so high that the game's crashed. But that's only because I've been doing other things while the enemy count's been so high. And that only really happens with hack quests. So the official quests, you're almost never going to find a crash.
Right, I see. So when you say hack quest, is that like a modded quest?
Pretty much quest communities made. For example, one that I used during my many years of hunting with a twin chakram is called Wrath of Forest, and that is just a complete enemy spam quest.
Wow, wow. Do you find there's still an active scene for that? Are people still making missions to this day?
Yep, almost all the private servers are still making missions for the game, but they're trying to do away with the monster spam quests.
Okay, is that because it's affecting the gameplay at the time? It's kind of choking it a little bit, or
I can do, but some people just do the monster spam quests rather than actual proper gameplay, just to hunt specific enemies. So
okay, okay.
they try to push people away from repetition of just a couple of quests onto trying all the different quests.
Right, right. So in terms of sort of the gameplay itself, looking at it, it's a gorgeous looking game. So
Mm-hmm.
graphically, was you quite impressed when you first saw it? Was you thinking, wow, this is something I can really
Yeah.
get into because it's really graphically pleasing. And did you was there anything about the game that what drew you initially to obviously you started playing the game, you've seen it, and
Mm-hmm.
you've got your hands on it now, and you're really getting into it. But what was it? What was the one thing in the game that really got you in? Like there's a moment where you're like, this is the game I need to commit thousands of hours to and years to. What was that?
I think it was when I managed to get my hands on some drop charts which showed me items. I was looking at the names. I was thinking, this looks great. My character can get that. So let's try to get this. Uh,
Yeah.
and what's triggered my 20-year hunts for the twin chakram would have been the fact that over time I got all the other dagger type weapons with hits on them, which boost the accuracy of them, except for the twin chakrams. So I started going, okay, I've got all the other daggers with hits. I want to get that with hits, and I just started sinking loads and loads of time into it.
Yeah, yeah, it's quite interesting because such a long time for a hunt. Was it because you were doing other things, playing other games, or was it always coming back to the game to try and find it?
For the first year or two, I was doing 2 or 3 forest runs, plus a quest called Lost Heat Swords. I was doing 2 or 3 of those every single night to hunt for it. But after the first year or two, I started taking a back seat, but I would still do that at least once a week or two.
Right, yeah, that's really interesting. So I'm seeing on the screen now a bit of communication. There's a lot of
Yep.
typing going on. How was that happening on the consoles? Did you have a keyboard attached, or was there some sort of other way of communicating?
Uh, in the game sessions you've seen there, we were actually using Discords to do voice chat like we are just now. But I've got the typing wise, I've actually got a GameCube keyboard controller.
Wow,
That those were only released in Japan.
wow, wow, wow. So did you have to source that from Japan to actually get that, or did you find it luckily somewhere here in the UK somewhere?
Actually, a friend of mine managed to source it for me. The same one who got me the LAN software and the broadband adapter initially.
Wow, that's incredible.
And he managed to find it with a box which I still have.
That's fantastic. It's so interesting to me because when I think of RPGs or I think of any kind of real like prominent RPGs, my mind always goes to Final Fantasy,
Mhm.
and that's not taken any away from Fantasy Star Online. I just feel like it's never been a game that's always been at the forefront of my experiences,
Mhm.
and I think that's probably because when like I said, initially started on the PlayStation, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I cannot remember this game ever hitting the PlayStation 1 or maybe the PlayStation 2, probably, but definitely not the PS1. So do you feel like that a lot of people who never owned a Dreamcast or a GameCube primarily missed out on a gem here?
A lot of people did. The PlayStation 2 did get a separate game in the franchise called Fantasy Star Universe, which is part of the Fantasy Star franchise, but it's a different franchise from Fantasy Star Online.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What was different? What was different? I mean, obviously you have to go into all the differences, but what was it about Fantasy Star Online here that you're playing now, but you've been playing for these years, to say the PlayStation 2's version, the universe? What was the big difference that you just? I mean, I don't know if you've played it enough to know, but was there something about that one that you just didn't really sort of get into?
I'll be honest, I did get into that one as well, but Fantasy Star Online kept putting me back because of the online community for the GameCube.
Mm,
Whereas I think Universe initially had a standalone storyline, uh, well, which was completely different from this, but again, science fiction, sort of fantasy thing. Uh, and of course, there was an online mode for that as well, but it was never quite as popular as Fantasy Star Online itself was.
yeah. Yeah, it's incredible, like hearing it, and saying the community's so strong now. They're still creating missions, and there's an active kind of play. As the years have gone by, obviously technology's changed so much,
Mhm.
and access to being online with these kind of games has become, I'm assuming, become a bit easier. Have you always played it natively on its own hardware, or have you ever gone into emulation?
I've always played natively on the GameCube.
Yeah.
At home just now, I've currently got three different GameCubes with broadband adapter set up. Uh,
Wow.
Granted, I only have two copies of the game, uh, but I've got more than enough to get a LAN setup going at home.
That's fantastic. Are you still doing that now with friends in the community and things like that? Do you still have LAN sessions with the game?
Unfortunately, most of my current friends don't play video games much, so I've yet to convince them into playing this game with me.
Yeah, no,
uh,
I feel that as well. I have the same trouble sometimes. Yeah. So, what about the online community? I mean, obviously, you meet people online. Do you find that a lot of them use emulation to kind of ease of access, if you like? Do you ever go into, obviously you're playing natively. Can you still connect to those kind of servers if they are
yep,
playing emulation?
yep, certainly. Out the group that I play with mostly nowadays, one of them plays on the Wii using the GameCube emulator to emulate the broadband adapter. So there's two of us in GameCubes. One of us uses the Wii, I suppose, an emulation software, a homebrewed Wii, and another person uses an Android device to emulate the game, and you're all connecting online at the same time to the same game.
Wow, that's incredible. Absolutely incredible. The lengths that people go to and what they'll do to access a game like this, and its servers to play together, I find it incredible.
Hmm.
And I know there's other communities that do that. I mean, the only experience I could speak to is probably the Outbreak scene, Resident Evil Outbreak.
Right?
I never even touched that online when it was on PS2, but these days, obviously, I'm having to, I'm not ashamed to admit it. I use emulation to get access to online servers to play with people or to just have a taste of it online. So,
Yep.
that's probably my only sort of experience of something like that. And that's a bit of a headache to do, to be honest. I'm not looked into it recently. I don't know if they've actually found an easier way of doing it, but yeah, it seems it's so intense, and I applaud anyone with like yourself who goes out of their way to really invest time and effort and financial resources to really make the experience really genuine. So I think that's something to be applauded.
Mhm.
So for me, when I'm looking at this game, I did look up a little bit of research after you told me this was the game you were choosing. I wanted to be not prepared for the game itself. I didn't want to look into kind of its mechanics, how it played. That's why I wanted to ask you. I wanted to hear your thoughts and feelings on it and be surprised. And I'm actually pleasantly surprised to say that this is something I could see myself playing or trying out
Mhm.
just to get a feel for it. And it looks so intriguing. Even if it's not this one, maybe a later title. So if
Yep.
there was a game that you could recommend, if it wasn't Fantasy Star Online, what other version of Fantasy Star would you recommend for a new player like myself?
For somebody starting out with the Fantasy Star series, I would probably recommend you look into the PC version called Fantasy Star Online Blue Burst, which is basically what you're seeing here on screen, but it adds an extra episode and it's PC exclusive.
Right, right. So what is that? Is it the sort of a similar kind of experience as this one, or is it just a more of a PC version?
It's sort of like an enhanced version of this. As I said, there's extra story modes within the extra episodes, so to speak. So, like the GameCube version added 4 levels onto the Dreamcast version, the PC version of Blue Burst adds another 4 levels on top of that
Wow.
and expands
Okay,
the
yeah.
storyline and the sort of in-game lore.
All right. Did you find yourself playing that one quite a bit as well because you had expansive lore?
I'll be honest, I've never actually played Blue Burst properly, but I am aware of it and its merits. I've always
Oh,
stuck to the
excellent.
consoles.
No, no, I totally understand. Yeah, it's quite intriguing, So, would you say that you're primarily a console gamer? That even if this had a say of a remake, but it was a PC version remake, on a later system, would you go out of your way to get it, or would you say no, I'm sticking with the original, I'm sticking with vanilla. This is where I cut my teeth. This is where I'm staying.
Um, that's what seemed like a cop out, but there's some games that belong on console and some games that belong on PC.
Mm. No,
And
no, I
to
yeah.
me, Fantasy Star is one that definitely belongs on console.
Yeah, yeah, because I did read a little bit that this it was credited online when I saw it that it sort of paved the way for future online games. It mentioned Final Fantasy what was it? Final Fantasy what's the online one?
Uh,
12 is it? No, not
I
12. It's
think I think 11 was the first.
14.
I think 11 and
11, that's
14.
right. 11. Yeah, was it 11 I'm thinking of? It might be
Yep.
11. It might be 11. It was credited then. It was also credited
Yep.
for another online title. I think maybe a Monster Hunter as well. Maybe I'm
Yep.
yeah, it was
Yeah,
so
right. The Monster Hunter franchise is classed as a spiritual successor to the Fantasy Star Online by a lot of people. In fact, when the Sega shut down the official servers, a lot of people moved on to Monster Hunter Tri on the Wii.
wow.
I myself have played quite a bit of Monster Hunter Tri and 3 Ultimates, which is a sort of special edition on the Wii U and the 3DS.
Yeah. That's incredible. Yeah. Did you when you was playing obviously the Monster Hunter, did you find yourself thinking about Fantasy Star Online? You think, yeah, this just isn't the same. This isn't like
Yep,
craving that itch I have. Yeah, it's got monsters, but it's not sci-fi enough for me.
yep. It's got the same sort of hunting mechanics where you basically going after specific enemies for specific items, but while it's got that, it's not quite the same game, even though it's a similar sort of pacing.
Right, right. How long is the game in totality? How long would it take to start to finish? Fully maxing something, doing all that sort of stuff.
If you're just going from the first level to the last, might be able to do this in a couple of days if you're doing both episodes. If you want to say reach hardest difficulty and complete that, maybe a few weeks. But
Right, right, yeah.
if you want to max out the character level to 200, that takes years.
Wow. Why does it take so long?
Um, the way experience gain is done actually scales. So for the to get the last 50 levels, you're basically gaining the same amount of experience you just for the first 150 because it scales as you go along.
Wow. Wow. Is there a lot of people that reach level 200? I mean, I suppose at this point there probably would have been, but
Uh,
was that kind of a common thing when the game initially launched? Did you find there was a lot of people at 200?
when the game initially launched, when it first started getting online, there were only it was only a handful of legitimate level 200 players. Uh, I eventually became one myself, as you can see
Yeah,
in the clips.
yeah. You use the word legitimate there. So talk to me about that. Was there how was there illegitimate ways of doing it?
There was a few known glitches back in the day. The public servers nowadays do go the way to so there's a screen for that. But essentially, there was what was known as BA leveling, where somebody would use a mod menu, so to speak, as what they would call it now. Back then, it was called the proxy server tool, but it's essentially a mod menu, and they would basically take the two player. They would take two or more players into one of the sort of battle arenas directly without actually using the warps. Then the person to get leveled up would get killed over and over until and each time they died, they would level up, so to speak. Then whoever had the mod menu would move them all back to the main hub area once they reached the appropriate level. Then quit the session, and it would lock the level 1 place.
Wow. It sounds like such a massive endeavor just to gain some levels. Was it really that important for these people?
For some people, they do make a big, massive thing for doing the level 200 game, so to speak. If you go into YouTube and you just look for Fantasy Online level 200s, you'll see a whole range of levels for that, videos for that. For myself, I never recorded the video because I lacked any capture setup at the time.
Yeah.
And my connection setup at the time was, shall we say, unusual. Suffice, I used a 2G mobile phone, a Nokia GPRS.
Wow.
I connected that to my Windows 98 PC via Bluetooth, and I shared that connection from the PC with my GameCube over a crossover cable.
That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible.
Oh, on a good day, it gave a ping of about 500. On a bad day, the ping was about 5,000.
Wow, wow, that was. I mean, it must be mad looking back and seeing what you had to go through to get a taste of the online scene. You know, now you look at today's like landscape and how ease of access it is. It must be quite not humbling, but it must be quite you know, don't like how do I put it? What's the best word to use? It it just must be so incredible, I suppose, is the only word I can really think of to look back and see that and then look where we are now and think, wow, what I used to do to get this game on. I'm shocked. I'm astounded. I think nothing but respect for that because I mean, honestly, to be dedicated to such a, you know, I think you're probably the first person I spoke to in all the podcasts I've done on games that made people, where I've heard such a rich history of, you know, going out of your way and trying to get something to run online in a time when, you know, that I personally was like, PlayStation 2 can go online. Nah, and I never saw it. I never even saw anyone do it. But to hear someone talk about how they went about it and you know, set that all up is honestly such an incredible you know, it's incredible to hear. Yeah, so nothing but respect for that. So obviously moving on from, you know, Fantasy Star Online, you know, let's say I'm not saying you finished the game because you're obviously a lifelong fan. You love this game. You cherish its memory, which is why we're talking about it now. So it's hard for me to say what did you play next, because we discussed a bit of Monster Hunter, but what did you do? You know, once you've reached your goals. Let's say you've reached level 200. You've done, obviously you hunted for the chakrams, but what was you doing in between time? You know, how did you pull yourself away from such a game that you spent so much of your, you know, passion in and, you know, communities that you've built up? How did you do that?
For myself, I've actually got a wide taste of video games. For example, if anyone was to do a Google search for my username online, you'll find I've got interest in games like Pokemon, Monster Hunter, Ghost Recon, Grand Theft Auto, Bully, Super Mario Kart. I've just got a wide ranging taste of games.
Yeah, it's quite a wide range, you know. You know, so did you cut your teeth quite a lot in those other games and, you know, build communities there, but you always found yourself kind of coming back to Fantasy Star Online? Was there always that pull there?
Yes, it was. Although I am very well known in the sort of Gen 1 Pokemon community on for some stuff I've managed to do in the past. But Pokemon wise, I've recently found out I've basically the owner of a unique piece of merchandise, um, which I've been trying to chase up for authentication, but it's not quite happened yet.
Oh, yeah, it's a journey or another journey, another couple of
Aye.
years. Well, hopefully not a couple of years. We'll, we're going to power level this one and get it sorted out. So let's just to sort of summarize everything. Unless I've missed anything you'd like to talk about the game, but to summarize, how is Fantasy Star Online, from playing it initially, how has it affected your life? How's it, obviously, we've talked about, your history with the game and your continued, love and, going back to it. But how did that affect you going forward? What did you, how did it like develop your tastes into games? Did it navigate you certain ways?
It taught me how to get my home networking set up to actually play games in a networking environments. Um, so nowadays, while I do enjoy same room console gaming, I would still prefer gaming with somebody in the same room, even if they're on different screens from me, than I would say somebody online. Even though the games themselves are intended to have people separated.
Yeah, yeah, no, that sounds really. I commend that. I do think that's something that's definitely. I wouldn't say it's, how do I put it? I suppose the only kindest word I could use. It's definitely died. That gaming,
Yep. Uh,
that couch sitting feeling.
yep.
Where it's multiple people in one room. And I know Nintendo have tried to do that. Obviously with the Wii, they did it with the Switch.
Yep.
They tried to get couch gaming back for families, but I feel like, unfortunately, the world we're in today is, much easier to turn on your console, turn on your PC, and you're instantly connected to everyone in the world who's on the same sort of system.
Yep.
And I think that's obviously where I think gaming is at the moment, unfortunately. And in hearing you say that, it would be nice to have, I think the only way I could sort of, to explain it is that, there's experiences I have where I go to fighting game tournaments, things like that,
Okay.
or maybe I go to some cons sometimes.
Hmm.
And I think that's probably the only place now where you could probably, get together with like-minded gamers in real life to actually talk about games and enjoy them. And
Yep.
I think this is probably one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast and talk to people like yourself,
Hmm.
is to hear your stories and connect with people. Not on, I know it's online we're discussing this, but
Yep.
connect over a shared memories of times prior, if you know what I mean.
Yep. Of course.
Yeah, so yeah, brilliant. If there's anything you'd like to add about the game that I may have looked over, I may have not asked or missed, please feel free to add it in.
Can't think of anything, but for those of you who want to see the game in action, there's a wide variety of PSO streamers on platforms like Twitch. So most of them are online most nights. Myself only really stream when I feel like it, which isn't often. But if I am on PSO, you'll probably see me on Sunday nights or Tuesday nights. If I am on.
And that's like, is that on Twitch, was it? Did you say?
Yep,
Or
on Twitch.
yeah, perfect. Yeah. So obviously, so it's twitch.tv/Gunblade Lad. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah, and your YouTube channel. We're actually watching this footage right now. That's YouTube /Gunblade Lad as well. Is that right?
Yep. Gumbleed Lad 7722, I believe.
7722. Yeah, perfect. Excellent. Well, Gunblade Lad, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to discuss with me today Fantasy Star Online. And obviously, I'm converted now. You've got me. I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to look at that one on Steam. It's probably the easiest one for me to get hold of. I'll be totally honest. I don't think I could see myself going down the shop and grabbing a GameCube or a or a Dreamcast anytime soon to set it all up.
Yep.
But no, I really appreciate the conversation. Thank you so much again for joining me. And yeah, take care and have a lovely weekend.
You as well. Enjoy your weekends.
Thanks so much, mate. Take care. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye bye. Lovely. All finished, mate. Stop recording. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all.
Yeah, no, in fact, I mean, honestly, some of the stuff you were saying, I obviously, I tried to obviously dig into it as much as possible, but I didn't want to, like, if I kept asking about, how did you do that? How did you do this? It would turn into a tech podcast.
I mean,
But no, yeah, incredible.
my old Nokia Bluetooth setup was still unique in the sort of Fantasy Online history.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely incredible. And I honestly, I meant what I said. It was just hearing that you're the first person I spoke to I've done probably, what are they? You're my probably seventh podcast.
Right.
I've got 3 episodes online. I drop them weekly, so you'll be week 7.
Okay.
But hearing that, it's incredible. It's such an incredible, yeah, it's insane. And I don't think any. I'll be honest, probably my favorite guest so far. Honestly, I think hearing all that information was, yeah, it's really I can definitely resonate with it because when I
Yep.
grew up, I couldn't access online. I didn't know what the internet was. I was going around my mate's house and he's playing like this RPG where he's like going through towns and villages. I'm thinking, what is this game? This is something I've never seen before. I'm sitting there playing Final Fantasy like 7 and 8,
Aye.
and they're playing online together, running around these villages like hunting spiders and stuff and picking up loot. And I'm like, this is incredible.
Um,
So yeah,
One thing I didn't mention is that one of my regular gaming buddies is actually journalist for Retro Gamer magazine.
really,
Yep.
wow.
In some of those clips, you'll see a character called Faith. That is a character of Faith Johnson, who does the collector's corner and the Retro Gamer magazines.
Oh wow, that's brilliant. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have someone like that on if they're ever interested. If you ever reach out and say, look, I've done this podcast, I'd love to speak to them about it. That'd be great.
I can once the podcast is up, I'll link them to the podcast and get a few views that way.
Beautiful. No, I appreciate it a lot. Thank you so much, Gunblade. I really appreciate it.
Well,
I'll let you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll leave you to it.
no problem. Enjoy your weekend.
And you too, mate. Take care. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye bye. Bye.
There we are.